You ever really want to know something, or you think you're at a wall, teach it, and you'll understand it inside and out.
It's almost like it realigns it in your brain a little. And when you say it out loud, it's like, oh, I have to do this in a different order or express it in a different way for this person to receive that information well. And that always benefits you in return.
I love how much initiative and drive that you had and paired that with your automotive passion.
Welcome to the Still Building America podcast with your co-hosts Josh Welton
and Darla Welton. Americans haven't forgotten how to work with our hands. There's a dynamic generation of young fabricators, blacksmiths, machinists, welders, hot rod builders, metal workers, manufacturing entrepreneurs, and artists who are still building America.
Discover your path to leadership excellence at the FMA annual meeting, February 25th to the 27th in Chandler, Arizona. This premier event offers a unique opportunity to connect with prominent figures in the fabrication and metals industries, enabling the exchange of ideas, collaborative solutions to business challenges, and the cultivation of strategic relationships. Visit fmamfg.org for all the details. And now, back to the episode.
So, Forrest Davis, shop foreman of Griot's Garage in Tacoma, Washington, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to. I've been a follower, at least of Josh's, for a long time, so it's cool to have a conversation with you guys.
Right on. I was actually looking up some stuff on you this morning and saw that I wasn't following you, so I rectified that.
That's the best thing about the fabrication community is there's so many really great people and everybody knows somebody that needs to know the next person. And
yeah, it's just a chain and we all have that commonality for sure. And
one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that you can't fake passion. And so those people, no matter whether they're just starting out or they're at the peak of their powers, like that's one thing that brings everyone together, and you just can't fake it. And if you do, people see through it.
Oh, 100%. We've all seen a few of those, but
yep.
I never focus on that, but I always am drawn towards the people who want to teach you, you know. I'm a nut job when it comes to like trying to learn the next thing.
It seems that way. Looking through your progression, it definitely, you've been with them pretty much from the beginning, and it mirrors your growth as well.
Yeah, it's kind of been a parallel path for Griot's Motors for sure. Yeah, it's been quite a ride and very fun. I've been with both companies for 16 years, so pretty much right out of high school, I started with Griot's Garage, and 16 years later, here I am as the shop foreman in our restoration shop at Griot's Motors.
Right on. So what would be the difference between the two?
Yeah, so Griot's Garage was started by Richard Griot, the owner of Griot's Garage, and he started that company, I believe, in 1990 as a way to provide products that people can get in the United States, and it was tools, garage accessories, cool stuff to have fun in your garage. And it is evolved over that time to mainly be a detailing focused and car care product company. So they sell anything that you can imagine to clean or polish or perfect any part of a car or a house or like whatever. People use it on all sorts of things, but mainly cleaning products. Griot's Motors started in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. And Griot's Motors focuses on full restoration of vehicles. That could include a lot of custom aspects of a vehicle too. We have the ability to do just about anything. We also have a growing consignment and sales program where we sell customer cars for them. And then we also have a storage element to our company where we actually will provide monthly storage for customer cars. Maybe they don't have enough room in their garage for that extra one they wanted, and we'll house it for them and they can come pick it up when they want.
Right on. Kind of a one-stop shop for people who want to keep their cars safe and clean. And
absolutely. And we are kind of, it should be called the Griot's campus at this point,
right,
because Griot's Garage is headquartered directly next door to us.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of, sharing of vehicles in terms of, they want vehicles for their catalog cover and online opportunities. And we want vehicles to showcase our abilities and use the products. In some cases, we have a whole paint department. So obviously, we're using a lot of the Griot's Garage products to perfect the paint before delivery to a customer.
And would you say it doesn't seem like you guys specialize in one thing or another? Like the vehicles I've seen come through seem to kind of run the gamut.
Yeah, so my cheesy line that I've been saying lately is we don't specialize in a specific type of car. We specialize in restoration.
Right.
And what that means is we've developed a process and a procedure to systematize restoring any car. And sure, every car is different. All the marks are different. Porsche, Ferrari, Chevy, whatever it is. But we've kind of distilled that down into how do we take a car from A to Z, all the parts and pieces, test it, and deliver it back to a customer in a way that works for everything. And obviously, like, we're still learning. We're always learning more. There's always a car we haven't worked on before. But if we put it in that procedure, then the success has shown that it works. And so, yeah, we specialize in restoration.
Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Absolutely. So typically, a customer brings us a car or contacts us in one shape or another, whether that's through our website, or they call us, or they've got a friend that's restored or had work performed by us. That conversation starts with really like what's the car, what kind of condition the car is in. We typically do an inspection on every vehicle because sometimes you're better off starting with a different car.
Yes.
Yep. That car could be really rusty. It could have damage that the customer didn't know about it. But then sometimes maybe that customer's father or mother passed that car down to them, and kind of those things go out the window because there's a sentimentality to that vehicle specifically. But we always do an inspection so we can be as transparent and forthright with the customer on where we're starting from. And then it becomes a discussion about what are the goals for that vehicle. Are you going to be taking this car to Pebble Beach Concours and like showing it and putting it up against all those other amazing vehicles trying to win an award? Or is this something that you want to drive on the weekends? What level of paint do you want? Are we changing the engine, the power plant, the transmission, the suspension, the frame in some cases? What are the goals? And listing out a plan for that vehicle with the customer. After that goal is set in place, we lay out what that next year and a half, in some cases longer than that, depending on the complexity of the project looks like, and we get moving. We have basically a shop that's set up to put a car through the entire process outside of, some things that we don't love doing, like chrome plating. That's better off left with those professionals. But we have a whole fabrication department. Department's probably a little excessive. It really consists of me and one other fabricator, Andy. But we have the ability to, fix corrosion. Currently, we're working on a Fox body Mustang where we're building a roll bar and a lot of other custom elements to that car. Typically, a vehicle will get disassembled by a restoration technician. We have 3 of them, and they completely tear the car apart down to the bare bones. High level of organization, cleanliness, to try and streamline the process as much as possible. And then if there are fabrication needs for that vehicle, then it would go over to the fabrication department, work through the process. That sometimes works in conjunction with paint. Like, let's say we've got sheet metal that needs to be perfected. Sometimes the paint guys will have an opinion on how they want that done, or like where this edge needs to sit, so the paint job is going to be perfect at the end. The body will go to the paint department. All the parts are sandblasted or refinished. Every little piece at this point is within the process, whether it's zinc plating or powder coating or painting, any litany of those processes to refinish, restore the part. Obviously, we're ordering a lot of parts in this process as well that need to be replaced. And once the car is out of paint and we have all the pieces together, then it's back to the restoration technician to reassemble. One of the things that we really like to talk about, and that's kind of, the bulk of the process, but the things that we really like to talk about and things that we've refined are the last 10 to 20% of a project, because it's the most important in our opinion, is making sure that the product that we're creating and delivering to a customer is exactly what they want, and they're going to have the best experience possible. And it's a place where it's commonly kind of not necessarily prioritized by this industry, is that delivery and that level of perfection. And I'll tell you, if you deliver a car and something happens within like a certain amount of time for that customer, it can put a really bad taste in their mouth.
You sure?
In terms of like the quality of the work or their perception of the experience. So we have developed a really rigorous testing procedure. And some customers are like, well, I don't want you to drive my car 500 miles per se after I just spent, a serious chunk of money to restore a car. But it's so important for us to make sure that that experience is as good as possible. So, the technician drives the car. They might have a list of things that need to be addressed. I'll drive the car. I'll have another list of things that need to be addressed. And then we pass it over to the owner of Griot's Motors, Philip Griot, who's one of Richard Griot's sons, and he will drive the car. And putting it through 3 different people and 3 different testing procedures really helps to refine that vehicle so you're delivering the best quality product that you can, because everybody notices something different.
Right.
We're all different. We perceive maybe that door closes differently for one person versus the other. So that's kind of like the layout. We deliver a vehicle. We always include, a lot of photos of the project as they get them throughout the project too, because we have customers that are out of state and they might never see the car in process.
And even then, the documentation is a huge deal with a car with this process like that.
For sure. I mean, I just got off the phone with a client this morning who, this is kind of like a very basic reason why they need all that documentation and why it's so important, but they're trying to get insurance on a restored vehicle.
Yep.
And they've invested a lot of money, and that value of that vehicle to them is a lot higher than maybe the insurance company thinks it is. So those photos really substantiate the invoices that go along with it. Like, this work was really performed and to a very high level.
That's incredible. I mean, that's a great service for the customer.
And it saves them a lot of headaches too, because I have a lot of friends who have shops that they don't necessarily go to that extent. And then a month later, somebody's complaining about this or that. And they're like, well, yeah, I just spent 2 years restoring your car. There's going to be little things that happen. And this kind of helps eliminate those things.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, within reason. These are still mostly old cars,
Right.
The standards for like a 60s Mustang in terms of maintenance were a little bit different in the 60s versus if you went out and bought a Mustang today.
100%.
But people aren't used to what they had in the 60s now. They're used to what they have now. And if we can bridge that gap and try and make it as clean and successful of a handover as possible, like, we're going to do everything in our power to do that.
I've enjoyed just listening to you share about what you do at Griot's and what the process is and why that process is important. Your passion just really shines through. So I'd like to hop into the Wayback Machine and talk a little bit about how did you get to where you are now? So you said you started here pretty much out of high school. What did that jump look like?
Oh, man. So I have just been passionate about anything that was mechanical, or if we throw it way back, it's like when I'm a little kid and I'm taking the CD player apart, not knowing if I can put it back together.
Yes.
Like, the type of thinking that the way that my brain works is I want to know how things work, how things are done, how things are made. And that started at a very young age. I think cars are just a way that that started to come out of me. So obviously when I turned 16, my first car was a Volkswagen Beetle. I wanted that car so bad. My parents were so nice to buy that unsafe vehicle for me. Like I spent my high school years a lot of time on the garage floor, like fixing a clutch so I could get to school the next day, and very tolerant parents, not only tolerant, but parents that allowed me to be a free thinker and gave me the space to express myself however I wanted. And that came out in cars a lot. So I graduated high school. Didn't necessarily know if I wanted to go like straight back into school. So college, I was still thinking about it, but I was like, I'm going to do something different for a little bit. I decided to do a gap year exchange program, and I spent 9 months living with a family in Spain.
Awesome.
That was a very formative aspect of my life. I still have communication with those people and visit them occasionally as well, which is really cool. I was able to go to some rallies, like vintage off-road rallies in Spain, which was like an environment I hadn't been exposed to in the United States before. And that was so cool. Just like seeing all these weird like French cars and like, but then also Porsches and cool stuff that I hadn't been exposed to before. And then I came back and I had to figure out what I was going to do. I needed an income. I started going to community college for business. And then I had the opportunity to work at the Mustang Roundup, which is a Mustang car show in Bellevue, Washington, which is just about an hour north of where we are.
Yeah.
Here in Tacoma. And it was the first show I helped a buddy out who was working in the retail store. He was like, hey, I need some help. And so I went there and I sold speed shine and wax to Mustang people. And I was pretty okay at it. I like talking to car people. I wanted to be around cars. And that opened up an opportunity for me to start working part-time in the retail store. And that's where the journey starts at Griot's. I worked in the retail store while I went to school for about 2 to 3 years. I was part of the team that moved from our old location about 20 minutes away from here into the Griot's garage headquarters, which is located next door to where I am now, and helped build that retail store, design fixtures, like order stuff and kind of start to lead a team. I was not good at it at that point, but I was the sales lead. And so I did that for a while. In the background, I was working on my own stuff. I still had the Volkswagen. I was also playing with motorcycles a little bit, which my parents didn't know because they were very safety oriented. They did not want me touching motorcycles. I had a motorcycle at the time. I had bought it for like $100 at a Kawasaki and put it back together, got it running, got my motorcycle's license. And I was like, man, this is rad. I love this. But I wanted to customize it. Like cafe racers were so cool at the time. Oh, yeah. So I started to do that. I was making like fiberglass parts. I was beating the sides of the tank in to like give it knee dents, like anything that I thought was cool. It was open game for this motorcycle because it's a $100 motorcycle. I can do whatever I want. Richard Griot, the owner of Griot's Garage, he has a vast, incredible collection of cars ranging from unobtainium, rare vintage race cars to modern supercars and a lot of other just like passion stuff in between, Volkswagens and Jeeps and stuff like that. And he has a back room at Griot's Garage where all these cars exist and he can walk out and see them or drive them and have access to them. And so that was always in the background of the retail store. It was just like peeking around that door, seeing what was back there. And he started noticing that I was riding this motorcycle in and it was changing over time. Sorry, this is a long story.
No, that's great. I love it.
So he started noticing that I was playing these motorcycles. And the business was, the Griot's Garage business was in a transitionary state. And there was a change of leadership that was going to happen shortly. And Richard Griot gave very admirably a 15-minute meeting with every employee in the building. That's like 50 people. That's like it's more than that now, but it was a lot of people.
Wow.
So a lot of people utilize that time to say, like, this is what we need to do to have it be better. And I was like, look, I had the retail experience, the customer service experience. I'm not really interested in selling car care products anymore. That's just not a career path for me. So I went in there and I treated it like an interview.
Yeah. Right
I
on.
brought a resume in, I brought a portfolio. This is what I've been doing. I know you noticed a little bit. And I asked him, hey, I want to work on your cars in the background. And he, like 2 weeks later, offered me a position, a full-time position, working on his collection. It's where it started. It was one of those things, you know, like sometimes you get into something and you're like, it just feels right. It was that thing. It was the thing that I got into, and it changed my mentality about like, what am I going to do with my life in terms of like career? Like I knew that once I was back there and I was experiencing and doing things, working on this stuff and learning a ton, that I was in the right spot. So that was awesome. That's a good feeling.
Not
Yeah.
everyone gets that feeling.
No, I know. And I felt really lucky. I didn't know that this was a career path available to me. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of surrounding myself with what I loved, like what I was passionate. And it was always cars, regardless of if I was selling car care products or whatever. I was always around cars. Yeah, it worked out. And so I did that for a long time. I worked just for Richard. You know, I think it was almost 8 years.
Okay.
And a lot of stuff happened in that time. We built a lot of really cool cars. We built this really cool BMW that's up here in my office. It's the detail wagon is what it's called. It was a SEMA build and utilized as a marketing tool for Griot's Garage in 2016. And a lot of other projects. And I progressively learned more. That's where the fabrication stuff started coming into play. I learned how to TIG weld, or started to learn how to TIG weld. And I was like, man, I want to be like all those other guys that I see that's good at TIG welding. And I realized, like, to be a really good welder, I needed to be a way better fabricator.
Yep.
Because my welds are never going to be good if I can't get these parts to fit
up's got to be spot on. Yep.
Yeah, it does. So that was a big lesson for me. And that pitched me down the fabricator hole. And I'm still there. And over my career, this is kind of a weird thing to say, but especially for somebody in my position, but it's become less about the cars and more about a conduit for me to express creativity.
Yeah. Yep.
And that creativity for me comes out in metal or in making things. And this job has evolved a lot, and I'm in more a leadership role, but you're always going to catch me out in the shop making something.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're still very hands-on.
I definitely try to be. Anyway, getting back to the story, like, so how Griot's Motors came to be is we were doing all this stuff for Richard. You know, all of this restoration work that we were doing was for his collection. And Philip Griot got involved, I think it was like 2018. And he was looking for a thing to do as well. And he saw opportunity in what we were doing for Richard. And he started thinking about, well, how can we provide this to a broader spectrum of people? And that's how Griot's Motors started to be thought of.
Right on.
Then we found an amazing property that is right next to the other headquarters, which was perfect. And me and Philip spent 1.5 years going back and forth, still operating in the old building, but basically managing the remodel of this space to become a top-of-the-line restoration shop that expanded upon our capabilities. Like, we were doing stuff in the back room at Griot's Garage that we should not be doing. Grinding, doing sheet metal repair, rust repair. We were painting stuff. Like, we were destroying that space. But it really opened our eyes on what we needed in a shop. And I was given the opportunity to lay out this whole shop as, like I was in my late 20s, early 30s at that point. And I don't know who else has gotten that opportunity, but
Right.
really cool to lay out this whole shop. I laid it all out in CAD so I could like see how it would be to be inside and like move a pallet between these lifts and these cabinets so everything worked, and we could have an engine, easy mobility. We have a fabrication department now. We've got a paint shop. We've got a wash bay where we can clean stuff. So yeah, we spent, 2018 and 2019 remodeling this space, building it out. And in 2020, we opened Griot's Motors. And for the last 5 years, we've really just buried our heads in figuring out this business. And we're really, for the last couple of years, especially in restoration, have just kept going and getting bigger, hiring more talented people and figuring it out. So it's been a really cool journey. So in August of this year, it was 16 years for me for
Right on.
Griot's Garage to where I'm at now, which is I'm the shop foreman. A lot of my job is customer management, employee management, leadership, and then kind of just general oversight of everything that we do in terms of operationally. And yeah, it's a pretty cool job.
Right on.
So Richard Griot really believed in you. Here you were working on your personal projects as, your bug and your motorcycle. And on top of that, you're getting your business degree. And along with
Proven work record with what you've been doing so far, I'm sure helps.
Right, exactly. So I'm curious, Richard said, okay, cool, you can start working on my cars, but was there any sort of tooling or anything to help you get started?
There was not much. I mean, we're talking like hand tools, and that's about. We're talking,
Right on.
hammers, maybe some dollies, general like mechanic stuff, because that's kind of where it started, and a lot of restoration process is that.
Right.
But yeah, by the end of that, I was like pulling welded on quarter panels off of cars so we could repair rust in deeper in. I was, like this BMW project that I've talked about, the SEMA build, that was a V8 motor swap, complete shaved bay engine, tons of custom fabrication for like I was making. We did have a little machinist room. I left that part out. We had a little lathe, which we still have. And I was making like custom reservoirs and machining threads into those reservoirs to accept the factory caps. So it didn't look like a billet cap. That's cool too, but we wanted like the OEM plus type of look. I was pie cutting exhaust systems and made a whole stainless steel exhaust system, custom flaring like the exhaust tips. We got in pretty deep for that space, and we just maximized it the best that we could. If there was areas of help that we needed, like painting a car, we would work with another local shop that we trusted who could help us with that. So we maximized that space. And at that point, Griot's Motors wasn't necessarily like a business that we were going to create. So, that investment in tooling, I think, was a little bit harder to pull.
It was almost like a hobbyist on steroids for a while.
For sure. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
When we moved into this space, it became a little bit more serious. And we're still collecting more tools.
Of course.
I'd love to have, we got a mill this year, like an old Bridgeport mill this year.
Nice.
There's a lot of capabilities that I'd like to have. I send a lot of stuff out for a laser, water jet, stuff like that. We don't have a CNC. We've got a local guy that can cut CNC stuff for us. Maybe someday we have that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that the ends that have to justify the means, and the ROI has to be there for that investment. But we're getting there, and it just takes time.
Well, that's how you build a sustainable business. You see way too many shops just go all in and get the best of the best equipment, and 3 years later, they're out of business. So there's a responsible way to do it.
When you started, you talked a little bit about learning to TIG weld. Were you like going on YouTube and learning, teaching yourself, or did you rely on mentors?
Yeah, so I did have a bit of a mentor at that point in time, but it pretty rapidly I was exceeding the mentorship capability of that person. And I'm definitely a YouTube University kid for sure. I've learned a lot from people online, and I'm a doer. I got to get in there and do things. I also credit my parents for instilling this sense of persistence, because I see a lot of people who try something and it's really hard and maybe they get turned off by that. But I'm the guy who will do it as many times as it takes until I'm good at it. I do credit my parents for a bit of that
Right on.
as well. But yeah, TIG welding, I was focused on YouTube watching. There's a lot of bad information out there too, but I could see what was working, what was not working. And I've been doing it for a long time at this point, and I don't necessarily say I'm the best in the world, but I can hang with some people and make some cool stuff. That's good for me. And I've taught quite a few people to weld at this point too, which is pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
And anytime you have an opportunity to teach anybody else anything, in my opinion, it really cements in your own brain.
I had a guy that I worked with at General Dynamics in the prototype shop, and he said, if you ever really want to know something or you think you're at a wall, he goes, teach it, and you'll understand it inside and out. And this was a guy that he had been a boxer early. He'd done a lot of things, but as a boxer, he was a badass when he was younger. But then as his kids got older and his nephews got older, they wanted him to teach them boxing. And he goes, I was at another level after teaching them. And he fought a Golden Gloves boxing match when he was 48. He's like, I didn't have the same physical talents that I did when I was younger, but I understood it so much better after teaching it.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's almost like it realigns it in your brain a little bit. You know the steps because you've been doing it for a while. Like, I have to do this, but you're not saying it out loud. And when you say it out loud, it's like, oh, I have to do this in a different order or express it in a different way for this person to receive that information well. And that always benefits you in return. It's
100%.
It's fascinating.
I agree.
So, Forrest, I understand that you are now creating an apprenticeship program or apprenticeship opportunity. Share with us what that looks like.
I would say that it's not as formalized as I'd like it to be, and hopefully we can do that and work with some schools. But we already have a little bit. Quite a few of my employees actually have come from a local technical school.
Nice.
It's called Clover Park Tech. It's 20 minutes away from here. Our head painter, our painter that runs the paint shop at this point, is one of our younger guys. And we got him really green, straight out of automotive refinishing, where a lot of those guys go into the collision industry. And what we do in paint department is so different than the collision industry.
They learn quote unquote bad habits for what you guys want to do.
Yeah, I mean, they're good habits for the collision industry, but they're bad habits for us because, the collision industry is trying to turn and burn and get cars in and out and painted and good to go. We're spending, 3 to 4 months on one car, making sure it's laser straight, making sure it's perfect, it's wet sanded, and all the orange peel is sanded out to perfection. And he's been super successful here, and the results show for that. And I attribute that a lot to his mentality. We want to have that conduit to basically grow within this space. And if you look around our shop, it's pretty young. We do have some older guys here that we've been able to snag out of this industry, this local industry, who are highly experienced. And that's been great too. But we want to be able to grow people from like a shop assistant position into something else. I actually interviewed a kid that's in that program last week, and we're going to offer him, he doesn't know this yet, very shortly, like today or Monday.
Breaking
we're
news.
Going to offer him a shop assistant. Yeah.
That's very cool.
It is cool. We're going to, he's young and he's in the welding program there. And we're going to offer him position as a shop assistant where he's going to be doing, a lot of the grunt work, but it's going to give him an opportunity to try different things out. And whether that's in fabrication or mechanical or paint or any aspect of what we do, that's really important to me, that there is a growth pattern, because I am I don't think of myself like this, but if anybody else saw me and where I've come in my time here, they would say that I'm the evidence of that success story, from starting at bottom is harsh, but starting low on the totem pole and moving my way up. It's pretty cool. And we want to be able to continue to do that. It's challenging though, like finding good people. And we always say that we hire for attitude and not for skill. And that goes for any position, because we all want to be here. We're spending a lot of time here. We're spending a lot of time together.
It's a huge deal.
You can put my metaphor is, you can put one drop of oil in the top of a barrel of water and it's going to cover the entire barrel. But we don't want to do that with the wrong person. We want the water to raise with the right people. I don't know. It's a terrible metaphor,
I
but
get
you
it.
kind of.
I get it.
It makes sense.
And I was just going to say that, it's not as formalized as possible. And if there's young people who want to work here, send me your resume, please.
Heck yeah.
Or show me that you have initiative, that you want to be in this space, and I will give you an opportunity.
That was literally what I was going to ask is, well, coming from someone who's gone down that road, but also now is looking for the people to start on that road. What are you looking for specifically? Because you're going to go with somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience if you're going that road.
Initiative is huge. Like, come in here, give me a resume, ask them I'm available, that type of thing, because that shows me that you're going to be a self-starter. I want to see people who can operate independently and be a self-starter in the shop, because the management style is like everybody's got their role and I am here to help when they need help, but I'm not going to babysit anybody. And I know that's kind of a severe thing to say, especially for like a younger crowd. Everybody has growth potential, I think. I just want to see initiative, and I want to see people who are passionate too. Like I want to see the passion that I still feel and felt when I was young. And so that's really important too. Like I want somebody who's passionate about cars. That's definitely an aspect. But if that person was passionate about making things too, like I would still be interested.
It was like I saw the social media video. I don't know how recently it was. It wasn't too far back, but it was going through the office and asking everyone what they drove and what they wanted to drive. And a lot of Volkswagen people, but definitely people who clearly understand the world they're working in. And
for sure. Yeah, well, the Volkswagen thing's a fun comment too, because it's honestly like a great example for how we can accumulate like amazing people. I'm a huge Volkswagen guy, so I've been doing Volkswagen stuff for a long time. I wouldn't say that's my only car. Like when I showed that video, I showed what am I driving now. It's my Volkswagen Beetle that I've since restored and customized with the Subaru motor and all this stuff.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. But then I also showed an F40 as what's my dream car, which I've had the opportunity of working on 2 now, which is incredible.
I've seen that.
We have one in the shop right now. It's so cool.
They're gnarly.
The Volkswagen thing started because I knew Volkswagen people who were also working at like one of my technicians worked at Les Schwab. I used to take my car and trade like free NOS energy drink that we used to get in the retail store because they would want to like promote like a car show.
Right.
I would be like, here's some NOS energy drink. Will you align my car for me?
I love the bartering system.
Yeah, that's one of my technicians now. Well, he went from Les Schwab to work for Volkswagen for 10 years as a technician. Both my other technicians that I have now, they all work together at Volkswagen. So they didn't have any restoration experience when they started here. But each one of them has become an extremely talented and very capable restoration technician, which is a completely different thing. They've got the mechanical know-how, but how we do things is slower, more methodical, and even more in-depth. So, that's just an example of how, we can find really good people, and maybe those guys are ready to get out of the flat rate industry where the work structure is a little bit different than how we do here. We're looking at people who want to be perfectionists too, because the result of what we do is the pursuit of perfection. A common one is like, I'm working at this job right now, like hypothetically for somebody to come in here, I'm working at this job right now. I want to do better work, but I'm not allowed to because I can't commit this much extra time to that project or this job. And that's a sign to me that this person, they want to go to a higher level. And I think that's something that we in providing we could do here.
I've seen people who have the skills to do something, but they don't have the patience and they don't have the eye for detail. And eye for detail and patience can actually make up for a lack of a skill in some areas. Like I see these welders who, like I look at them and think that, they got the technique that like everything's there, but they're trying to rush through everything and they're not paying attention to the little things. And I would take, as much as I think talent can overcome a lot of things, if you don't have the eye for detail and patience, you're just not going to make it in an industry like what you're doing.
For sure. Yeah. And it's not to say that like this world doesn't need that other mentality either. People want to be able to have their cars back quickly and so they can keep driving them. It's just a different industry,
Yes.
you know, and we have different needs. And there's people that might fit better within different ones. And we've had people like that here too that we've had to say goodbye to at certain points of time. And that's just part of running a business and finding out the type of person and like the personality and the work ethic that, you know, you have to refine for what you're looking for.
Right on.
I love hearing about your growth experience, the lessons you learned along the way. And Forrest, you're still really young, but you're creating opportunities for the next gen coming up. And this is the story we love. This is how it should work. There's just nothing more valuable than that apprenticeship model. And you can go to school, and school is great for a lot of things, but getting that on-the-job training and working alongside others who are experienced and have knowledge and skills that are required for that job and that environment, there's just not anything much better.
Yeah. Honestly, I could have had it earlier. You know, like if there's one thing that like I would say that I would like to see different maybe in our school system is just like that going towards something like this is not a bad thing.
100%.
You know? I know when I was growing up, like the push was always college, and I don't discredit college at all. I think it's really valuable. And there's times when I look back and I should have gone to like the Vehicle Research Institute at Western Washington University, where I could have learned CAD and been exposed. But there's other paths, and they're not inferior in any way, shape, or form. And if there's one thing I would want like a high schooler who's listening to this podcast to take home is that there's other ways that you can get into this industry, and there's other ways you can express yourself and find success that are alternatives.
Now you're speaking our language. Yeah.
Definitely. No, I absolutely love that.
Good. I think the sentiment for that is pretty even to anybody who's worked in a trade.
And I think we're getting to the point where we are getting rid of that scarlet letter. Like it's not, and that's one of our things is we want to get middle school and junior high kids, maybe not like way deep into it, but at least exposed to the trades because then they can say, maybe they love it and they're like, well, I want to do this rather than be a doctor. Or maybe they hate it and they're like, you know what, I'm going to concentrate on these other things to make sure that I don't end up doing trade work. And it goes both ways. I'm so tired of it's the same thing you're talking about, the old trope of like, well, you're not doing so good in English class, you're going to go do sheet metal. And it's like, no, we want the best and the brightest in every industry. You know, stop trying to fit square pegs in round holes. Like just let people go where they want to go.
I feel like my scenario might be a little unique for some people too. Like I think maybe if you have a parent in a trade that you might be more likely to entertain that. My dad was a doctor. He owned his own practice for 30 plus years, really very successful at it. I think for him, he never he was like, you might want to just do cars as a hobby,
right? Yep.
Which I heard him, and so I definitely went towards more like the business college end, which was still very valuable.
Huge.
And I take some of those lessons I learned in that space, but I also just don't think he knew what I could turn this into or where I would have fallen and where I am now, which is like perfect for me.
Yeah,
there's different opportunities and worthy of exploration for everybody, whether that's college, whether that's a trade, whether that's, you know, cars or rockets or, you know, being a lawyer, whatever. You know,
yeah, 100%.
Love your idea of just providing opportunity for people to try.
Yep.
For young people, like that is the potential spark to ignite something in them that might steer them or might provide them perspective that they didn't have before to try something out.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And being able to experience more things is never a bad thing when you're trying to make a decision that's going to affect your entire life.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And you can change too. You can change your mind.
100%. And we see that a lot. Like I do welding workshops and I see people in there all the time with like different, one guy had a pharmaceutical degree, another guy was leaving, you know, he was a PhD, but he wanted to learn how to weld, to build his own bikes and things like that. Like, and then vice versa, you see a lot of guys that come up in the trades and then they decide to use, whether it's their company or whoever is funding their schooling, and they're like, you know what, I've kind of reached the limit of what I can do, what I want to do in the trade. I'm going to go try something else. And I think the earlier you're exposed to those different kind of things, the better, because even then you go a certain path, you're like, you know what, I remember trying this other thing a while ago. Well, maybe I'll try that again.
For sure.
And this idea that we all have to be hyper specialized, like, it's kind of going away. Like, we can do a lot of different things. People are unique and multidimensional, and there's something that's said for working at one thing for 30 years and now you're an expert at it. But some people are just, a lot of people are capable of doing more than that. So
absolutely. I mean, I didn't get into CAD design stuff until maybe like 3 or 4 years ago.
Also, there's still hope for me there.
You and me both.
I was out
on... Yeah, it took me a while, believe me. Like, what am I doing? But now we're 3D printing stuff in the shop. We're laser cutting stuff, or we're working with a guy who's got a CNC router so we can cut all these wood panels to just improve efficiency or quality or whatever. So you can always learn something else.
The proliferation of CAD and that kind of design aspect that has now infiltrated like everything has so increased the quality of work that we're seeing across the board, from whether it's car stuff to just general design, your architectural design. It's really lifted a cap off a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's cool too. It's like when I see the SpaceX rocket get caught by a giant
100%.
Every time I think about that, it blows my mind. And I love that stuff like that is more accessible too, right? You can just jump on the Google machine, type in, learn CAD, and you've got it right at your fingertips. You don't have to go in somewhere and learn it. I mean, it's all right there. So the accessibility is really something. This has been so fantastic. Yeah. I feel your story is inspiring in the fact that it's a little bit of a different path. It's not the traditional path, but I feel like there are more people who will resonate with that than we could possibly imagine. There's so many kids that are sitting in high school right now going, what the heck am I going to do next? Somebody's going to listen to this and be like, you know what? I'm going to go spend 9 months in Europe.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
I know that was me too. I was like the travel bug. I wanted to take every opportunity that I could, and really it changed my life. It changed my worldview, my outlook on things, how to engage with people, realize how different people are. Not just around the world, but also around me. So that education, travel is priceless if you can, figure out the funding for that. But yeah, so I love the non-traditional path. I love how much initiative and drive that you had, and paired that with your automotive passion, as well as passion for making things, creating things, and being able to express yourself. So,
and sharing that with the younger generation, which makes it, come full circle. And now you've got something that's a legacy, and not just, it's not gonna end where you end. It's something that's gonna keep on going.
Thank you so much. I guess I don't always like sit down and think of it like that. That's more my perspective than anything else.
Yeah.
You're running a business is the next thing.
100%.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If I can talk about it and inspire anybody to just try something out, then that's absolutely worth it to me.
Awesome.
Yes, Forrest, you represent the heart of Still Building America so well. As a young person yourself whose passion for creativity and making things and taking initiative not only paved your own path, but now also a path for others.
Yeah, awesome. This is a great talk. Really appreciate your time, man.
It was really nice to talk with you guys, and I hope at some point we can meet in person.
100%.
Yes, yeah. We would love to.
I love visiting shops and visiting the people that make them go. And
shops and factories, and that's like, we're like, it's like our Disney.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
Right on. We'll make it happen.
Before we go here, I want everyone to know that Griots is Griots if you're looking it up online. So, Forrest, could you share with us the best way to follow along with all of the latest?
Absolutely. So Griot's Motors, you can find us at griotsmotors.com. That's our website. We have an Instagram page, Griot's Motors. You can absolutely check us out there as well. We sell a lot of cars. And so if you're interested in some of the inventory that we're consigning, that can also be found on Bring a Trailer under Griot's Motors.
Oh, nice.
And hey, Forrest, what about you? Do you have a personal Instagram or?
I do. I have an Instagram page. It's just my name, Forrest with 2 R's, _ Davis. You look up my name, it'll pop up. I post a few things on there. I've been into photography lately, so I've been trying to photograph some cool cars that we have coming through the shop. But also I try and post up some fabrication projects on there semi-regularly as well.
Cool.
All right. Awesome. Well, Forrest, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Definitely.
Thank you guys as well, and it was great chatting with you.
Still Building America is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association and part of the FMA Podcast Network. The podcast is hosted and created by Darla and Josh Welton. Episodes are produced and edited by Garrett Slager and Darla Welton. Additional production support by Dan Davis, Andy Flando, Dana Weicker, Mike Owens, Billy Culpa, Elizabeth Gavin, and me, Sarah Spring. Thank you for listening.
Hop into the Wayback Machine